de este año del Consorcio Lechero, desde el Departamento de Extensión quisimos dar un enfoque económico a la producción lechera predial. Para ello trajimos en esta ocasión al Dr. Albert Vries de la Universidad de Florida, Gainesville, Estados Unidos. Él es especialista, profesor en ciencias animales, especialista en economía de producción lechera. Y a cargo de esta entrevista estará Octavio Oltra, del Departamento de Investigación y Desarrollo. Los invito a escuchar esta interesante entrevista.
Dr. De Vries, we are very glad that you came to Chile, and we know this is your third time here. We really appreciate that you can give us some idea about the economics of dairy, something like it for us dairy farmers is very important, and for some of them something new. We are really glad that the last night seminar was very good, and we hope we're gonna have you here another time as well.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate that Consorcio Lechero brings me here to Chile, and I can see some of your Chilean dairy industry. I've been very impressed so far.
Dr. De Vries, one of the important things for farmers sometimes is take the decision of culling cows. Which are the main factors that a farmer have to take in consideration when they are culling cows, not pregnant ones?
Okay, most farmers actually have a number of replacement heifers that are ready to calve and come in, and so the heifers that calve will actually push out, say, the sort of the worst cows. So the question the farmers have to face is, which cows are my sort of worst cows that make me the least profit into the future, and he has to rank those animals. And it makes sense for farmers to start with thinking about what is the revenue or the income from that each cow produces, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that's the amount of milk is important, but also if you get paid for solids like fat and protein, it's good to have a measure of how much fat and protein does this cow produce. So the income from the milk solids is an important factor. And hopefully farmers can test their cows and have a good understanding for individual cows what the milk income would be then. The other part is that milk is not produced free, so they would need to have some estimate of the feed cost. And farmers usually don't know for individual cows what the feed cost is, but hopefully they have an idea, at least for the herd, and they have for how much the feed cost for a certain amount of kilos a cow produces is in that herd. And so you can calculate for every cow the milk revenues through the solids minus the feed cost. And most farmers say, well, if that is a positive number, then this cow is making me some money still, because at least she is paying for a feed cost and maybe a little bit labor cost if that is associated with the cow. And that is a pretty good rule in general to rank your cows. Of course, we're talking about open cows now, because farmers want to keep their pregnant cows. We've always shown pregnant cows are worth keeping. And so if they do that, it turns out that in case you have a lot of heifers, then clearly even cows that make you a little bit of profit should be ready to be culled, because the replacement animals in that position will make this farmer more milk. So you want to give cows not too much opportunity to get pregnant. And it's hard to give you a right number, but maybe 7 months or so, if you're still open, you got to think about culling that animal. On the other hand, if the milk price would be very low, then a cow has to produce a lot of milk.
Considering that the prices in the dairy sector in general are very volatile and they are very variable, do you think it's a good decision for a farmer to cull more cows with the price of the milk is low?
It seems a rational decision to cull more cows when the prices is low, because a cow that does not produce much milk costs more that day than you get for revenue from the milk income. But that can be a bad decision, because you cull more cows, then you have heifers coming in, so your herd size gets smaller. And temporarily that makes sense for when the milk price is low, because you're losing less money, but you have to consider that you're in the dairy business because you believe the milk price will be high again. If you did believe that the milk price was always low, you probably should get out of the dairy business. So somehow in your mind you say the times must get better. Well, when those milk prices do become better, and that may be a few months from now, maybe 6-8 months, I don't know, you want to have the cows available to take advantage of that milk price and produce the milk that you need them. And so if you're culling cows now because they don't make you enough money, you do not have enough animals around when the milk price is getting better to take advantage. So the farmers that I work with in the United States, where our milk prices are very volatile, changing over time, they really don't cull more cows when the milk price is low because they know that better times are coming. You know, they have a faith that that's happening, and they want to make sure the barn is full, the farm is stocked as well as possible to take advantage of those higher milk prices when they do come.
Another important factor in the dairy industry is the beef prices. How do you think that the beef prices influence in the decision of culling cows?
Well, the beef price plays a role in culling as well. And for individual cows, an animal that is late in lactation and has a lot of meat on her, she's probably an earlier cull candidate than one that has low meat on her. But in general, most farmers would not cull many more cows when the beef price is high, I think, if the number of replacements is fixed. But we have shown that if you have plenty of replacement heifers, maybe more than you need, that should increase your cull price, your cull rate. So the herd turnover, the number of cows that you cull every year would increase indeed with a higher cull price. And it makes sense because culling, of course, you in a way have a depreciation. There's an animal that you bring in, a heifer, for a certain amount of money, and then you sell her usually for a lower amount of money. And so you want to keep that animal around on the farm a long time because she's losing money. But if the beef price is high, the loss in the money of the value of that cow is not very high. So then it doesn't make sense to replace those animals faster and get new animals in because the replacement cost, if you will, is not very high. And so then these new animals, they may produce more milk, and your cull rate would go a little higher with the beef prices. We've shown that with some computer work, the cull rate can go quite a bit higher if the beef price is high. But of course you need to have the replacement animals, because I still think that the principle of keeping the barn full, or the pastures full if you will, is the motivating factor there. So if I look at the United States, when our beef prices go up, we see some increase in culling at the national herd, but not too much, because again, farmers want to keep barns full, and they have just a limited amount of replacement animals that can actually take the positions of the animals that they cull.
You mentioned a very important concept a few times, that is keep your barn full. Could you go a little deeper, explain us why it's so important, this concept for dairy farmers?
Yes, it's generally quite important if you to keep the barn full, which means first you sort of have to decide how many animals that means. But if you have free stalls, like in our situation, maybe 1 cow per stall means the barn full, okay? And maybe 110 cows for 100 stalls means the barn is full. And that is an important concept because generally cows, the amount of revenue is just a little bit higher than the amount of the cost to produce the milk. Okay, I mean, in generally dairy farming is profitable, but not too profitable. So we got to think about what happens if the barn is not full. Well, if we cull too many cows, all the revenue disappears because there's no milk income, there's no calf value from the animal. And yes, we get some cull income if we sell the animal, but if we have no animal in the barn, there will be no cull income. So really, If we have fewer animals, then there is no income whatsoever. If we have no animals, so what kind of costs do disappear? Yes, the cow is not eating, so the feed costs are gone. And maybe there's some parlor costs that you don't have, maybe T-dip or so, that is gone. On the other hand, many costs stay. You still have a barn that you need to depreciate, that is getting less in value over time. Maybe you have employees that you pay a fixed amount of time per day. And these employees, you got to pay for that amount of time anyway, whether they work with 100 cows or they work with 90 cows. And so the amount of the cost, maybe only half of maybe 70-80% of the cost goes away when you kill the cow, but you still have an amount of fixed cost that is going to be there anyway. And only those fixed costs would go away if you totally sold the farm. But otherwise, those fixed costs stay there, especially if you have the barn 90% full. Many of those fixed costs stay there. So all good dairy farmers in the United States will make sure that their barn is always full.
Dr. Vries, thank you very much for your time, for all the useful information you give us. Thank you, and we hopefully we're going to get you again soon here.
Well, thank you very much, and it was for sure my pleasure to be here.